Alcohol is a poison, not metaphorically. Ethanol is toxic to your cells, it impairs coordination, it disrupts memory formation, in high enough doses it kills you. And yet humans drink it on every continent in every culture going back thousands of years, not occasionally, not reluctantly. We built entire economies, religions, and rituals around it. Here's the question almost nobody asks. Why does your brain reward you for consuming a neurotoxin? The answer isn't really about you. It's about something that happened to your ancestors 10 million years before you existed, and something else that's still happening to human populations right now. This is the biology behind why you drink. Or why, if you're one of hundreds of millions of people, your body actively fights you when you try. Start with the deep history because it explains the baseline. Primates have eaten fruit for roughly 45 million years. Ripe fruit is calorie-dense and essential, but ripe fruit ferments and fermentation produces ethanol. The smell of ethanol drifting through a forest was, for millions of years, a reliable signal: high-calorie food is here. Primates that were drawn to that smell ate better and survived better. Over time, that attraction got hardwired in. Then, around 10 million years ago, something specific happened in our lineage. A single-letter mutation in a gene called ADH4, the enzyme that does the first-pass breakdown of alcohol in your mouth, throat, and stomach, made that enzyme roughly 40 times more efficient. This mutation shows up in humans. It shows up in chimpanzees. It shows up in gorillas, which means it was already present in the last common ancestor of all three long before any human had ever existed. This is the part most people get wrong about alcohol and biology. Your ability to handle ethanol at all isn't human, it's primate. You inherited hardware that's millions of years older than your species, but humans didn't stop there. We took something primates merely tolerated and turned it into something we manufacture on purpose. This is where the story stops being about primates in general and starts being specifically about us. The oldest confirmed evidence of intentional alcohol production is about 13,000 years old, a site in modern-day Israel where a group called the Natufians left behind stone mortars containing residue from a multi-stage beer brewing process. Not accidental fermented fruit, deliberate manufacturing. By around 7,000 BCE in the Yellow River Valley in China, people were producing a fermented drink from rice, honey, and fruit. By 6,000 BCE in what's now Georgia, people were making wine specifically from grapes. This is a uniquely human move. Other primates encounter ethanol passively in rotting fruit on the forest floor. Humans started engineering it, selecting ingredients, controlling fermentation, scaling production. And once we could produce it reliably, something else happened. The concentration changed completely. Ancestral ethanol exposure, the fermented fruit your distant primate relatives evolved to like, was extremely dilute. We're talking somewhere around 1 to 2% alcohol by volume, bundled together with fiber, water, and nutrients. A modern beer is roughly 5%. Wine is around 12 to 15%. Spirits can hit 40% or higher, stripped of everything except concentrated ethanol. Your reward system evolved for the 1 to 2% version. You're now feeding it the 40% version. That's not a small mismatch. That's an order of magnitude mismatch between what your biology expects and what your culture actually serves you. This gap is a big part of why alcohol misuse exists at all. The ancient reward circuitry didn't evolve any safeguards against concentrated doses because concentrated doses never existed in the environment it evolved in. So why did we keep doing it, despite the risk? Robin Dunbar, the Oxford anthropologist known for Dunbar's number, the idea that humans can maintain roughly 150 stable relationships, published research in 2017 asking exactly this question. His answer centers on the endorphin system. Endorphins aren't just feel-good chemicals. In primates, they're a core mechanism for social bonding. Laughing together, singing together, physical touch, all of it triggers endorphin release, and that release is what makes you feel closer to the people around you. Dunbar's research found that alcohol triggers that same endorphin response. This matters because most primates bond through one-on-one grooming, a slow, physical, one-at-a-time process. That doesn't scale to large groups. Humans live in unusually large social networks, and we needed bonding mechanisms that could work on many people simultaneously. Laughter does this, music does this, and according to Dunbar's data, so does drinking together. People who drink socially in his studies reported larger support networks and stronger feelings of trust and community engagement. Alcohol functioned less like a personal indulgence and more like social infrastructure, a tool for building and maintaining group cohesion at a scale that grooming alone couldn't manage. This is likely a major reason drinking became ritualized rather than just consumed. It wasn't only about the chemical effect on one person. It was about what happens when a group shares that effect together. Here's the part of this story that's still actively unfolding in human populations today. Not everyone carries that ancient, efficient ADH4 inheritance equally well into modern drinking. There's a separate, much more recent genetic story specific to humans, specifically to a large portion of East Asian populations. It's called the ALD2*2 variant, and it affects roughly 8% of the world's population, around 500 million people, concentrated heavily in East Asia. Here's what it does. After ADH4 breaks ethanol down, the next enzyme in line, ALDH2, is supposed to clear out a toxic byproduct called acetaldehyde. People with the ALD2*2 variant have a severely impaired version of that enzyme. Acetaldehyde builds up rapidly when they drink. The result: facial flushing, rapid heartbeat, nausea, the reaction some people know as Asian flush. It's not an allergy, it's a malfunctioning detox pathway, and it's deeply unpleasant by design. What's striking is the timeline. Researchers estimate this variant was actually selected for within roughly the last 2 to 3,000 years, recent enough that it's essentially still unfolding human evolution, not ancient primate inheritance. Nobody fully agrees on why a variant that makes drinking miserable would be positively selected. One hypothesis: in regions with historically heavy reliance on fermented foods and rice-based agriculture, the aversive reaction may have actually protected carriers from alcohol dependency and its downstream costs, at the price of making moderate drinking unpleasant too. It's a sharp counterpoint to everything before it in this video. While most of your inherited biology pulls you toward alcohol, this is a case of human biology actively evolving against it in real, recent, traceable time. And there's a cruel twist: people with this variant who drink heavily anyway face significantly elevated cancer risk, because their bodies accumulate toxic acetaldehyde faster than they can clear it. The aversive reaction is, in a sense, the body's warning system working exactly as intended. So here's the full picture. 10 million years ago, a mutation in a fruit-eating primate made ethanol metabolism dramatically more efficient, because the smell of alcohol meant food, and that attraction kept primates alive. 13,000 years ago, humans turned that ancient tolerance into deliberate manufacturing, and in doing so blew past the dilute concentrations our biology was built for. A few thousand years ago, recent enough to still be visible in living populations, some human lineages evolved the opposite trait: a genetic break that makes drinking actively unpleasant. None of this is really about willpower. It's about which version of 10 million-year-old, 2,000-year-old, and present-day biology you happen to be running. The drink in your hand, or the one you can't stand the smell of, isn't a personal choice made in a vacuum. It's the latest chapter in a very long, very human story about food, connection, and chemistry.